The following program is a public access production. Comcast is required to provide time on this channel and make it available pursuant to franchise agreements with the communities we serve. Comcast is not affiliated with the following program or the producers of public access programming and is not responsible for the content. The following program does not reflect the opinions of Comcast or its affiliates.
We're celebrating St. Patrick's Day, and you may not see it on that day, but we are celebrating it, and a couple of our guests are Irish, so we wanted to make sure that we celebrate it today. But today we're going to be talking about a subject that a lot of people seem to be talking about. We have this new book that was sent to us on cutting-edge therapies for autism, and we're going to be talking about a lot of things that have to do with autism. So I've asked Dave Geslick, who is the website EC, C is in California, Autism, who developed this video, to co-host this program, and he has asked the guests to be here today so that we can inform you about autism. So thank you for joining us, Dave.
Yes, thank you for having me again. I'm very excited to have this show today. Karen and I have been talking about this for a while to put something together for all the viewers, and I'm proud to have these two moms and two people who are very influential in Illinois and across the country with helping children with autism and other organizations. So I want to introduce you to our guests, Mary Kay Betts and Kirsten Rojas. And Mary Kay is the executive director at Autism Society Illinois. She's been the director now for about
9-10 months.
9-10 months. She's done a fantastic job with growing the organization. She has 2 children, is it?
I have 3 children, 2 with autism.
3 children, 2 with autism. And I want to let her tell you a little bit about Autism Society Illinois.
Well, we are the oldest autism advocacy group in the state of Illinois, in the state of Illinois. We've been around for over 32 years. We have over 800 members. We help all families throughout the state of Illinois. We're not just in the Lombard area, that's where our office is. We are the statewide organization. So we answer the phone every single day and help families when they're calling and they're in need of help. Whether they're in need of help looking for services, whether they're in need of help with their children's special education, whether they're in need of help of finding treatments that are unsure of what kind of treatments are out there because there's so much out there, we help them and guide them. We make sure that we call back, that they know someone is there in the office that is going to be able to help them. We go to meetings with them for their special education. We do all of this free of charge, and we are just there for the families. So it's really exciting to be able to be part of what we're doing right now. We're also doing a lot of outreach, and what I mean by outreach is getting the families out of their houses where they've been stuck for so long and putting together safe activities for them to go out and feel safe in the community. We have an upcoming activity we're going to do the night at the Wolves, Chicago Wolves at the All-State Arena, and we were lucky enough to secure a sponsor to pay for the tickets so that we could give those tickets free to the parents, and we're going to have all the parents and the children come out. And then siblings who can skate get to skate on the ice. So we really are taking care of the whole family unit. We're not just looking at just the child with autism. We're looking at making sure we're helping the mom, we're helping dad, we're helping grandma, we're helping grandpa, and we're helping the siblings because they definitely are the ones that get left behind.
So at what age are the children that the families are usually calling you?
We get calls from right when they're diagnosed.
Like, usually when is that?
We get calls when moms are pregnant, We get calls when they're just diagnosed, when
When they're
maybe
pregnant.
2 years old. We get calls about, because they're so concerned because autism is so prevalent now. It's
Okay.
1 in 110 children. And if they find out they're having a boy, it's 1 in 70 boys.
But they don't diaggnose it through the amniotic fluid.
They
or
don't
anything,
diagnose
no.
it, but they
Okay.
want to know what they can do to lower their chances of,
prevent
or
it.
to prevent it. We don't know what causes autism. We do know that that recovery can happen, and that with early treatment, early diagnosis, that children do get better and can lead very successful lives and be part of the community. And Kirsten will talk about that. But we get people calling when they're pregnant. We get people calling, grandparents calling that have to take care of their grandchildren now. We have, I have lately a lot of older gentlemen, like in their 50s, have been calling saying, I think I might have Asperger's. What do I do? Where do I get diagnosed?
And why do they think that?
There's so much more out there, so that they're like, well, this is how I've been all my life. Why haven't I been able to keep a job? And why have I been
You're
able
talking
to
about
deal
attention deficit? Yeah.
more of oddities that they might have seen in their life, and they're now, everything's on the internet, so you can find out more about Asperger's. That's more of a social.
But specifically, what are they talking about? I mean, are they talking about they're distracted, they're...
They're talking about not being able to understand social cues, not being able to have relationships, not being able to hold a job, not understanding really the
Well, that could be
socialness of it.
schizophrenia, too.
It
Yeah,
could, but
right.
a lot of people are calling because they just don't know, and they want to know where they can go to get help. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of places for people that are older to get a diagnosis, because that's not where we're at. And especially in the state of Illinois right now, we don't know what we're going to do with all these children that are aging out into adulthood. So we've got parents that are calling about that. So their kids are aging out of special education at 22, and they have we don't know where we're going with them. There's a 14 and a half year waiting list for services with our state. So we just don't know what we're going to do. And they call us, and what we try to do is pull all of our resources that we know about and try to come up with a plan to help those families. And if I can just really quick tell you about this, we just had a family call last week. A mother called, and 2.5-year-old was diagnosed. She was getting support and getting early intervention, and she wanted to put her child in a residential placement. And when we asked her why, she was like, she was by herself. She just couldn't take it anymore. She wasn't getting any kind of respite, anything. And we talked her down, and we told her that we were going to be there to support her, and we gave her some supports. And luckily, hasn't put her child, not wanting to give her child up.
Well, I was in church one day, and I saw a woman sitting off to the side near where I was sitting, and she obviously had a child that was combative and autistic. And he was, beating on her and all this stuff, and she wanted to go up and take communion, and I walked up and told her I was a nurse. It turns out she also was a nurse, and that I would hold on to him, while she went up there, because it really is very difficult and embarrassing for people, and people really shouldn't stare or anything, because it's uncontrollable, and it's very embarrassing.
And I think that's one thing that I advocate for, obviously Autism Society Illinois, but also Kirsten with her blogs, and she's going to tell you about that, but her blog spot is called chicagonow.com/fighting autism, and that's one thing that I know that we're all big on talking about, is not making the public aware, but also educating the public
yes.
about what autism is, what you can do to help. Just like you said, you helped a mom.
Yeah, but I think the fact that I'm a nurse, and I talk to people in wheelchairs because they say that they feel like they're invisible because people don't talk to them, or they don't ask them, well, what happened to you, when they really want to talk about it,
And I'm sure, Kirsten,
Yeah.
I'm going to give her a second to talk. But also is the same thing, is that we see other people in the medical field that aren't sensitive towards autism.
Right.
So,
Well, it might be also, I just definitely want to let you talk, but it might be also because I have a foster brother who's albino, and my parents took him when he was like 4 weeks old, and for years people looked at him, and when he was a baby, and although he doesn't look strange, he just had purple eyes and white hair,
Right.
and they said he'd be dead by the time he was 20, and he isn't. He's in his 40s, and he's a law professor and everything. But I remember people staring at him, and one girl said, when I was a child, I was only 12 years old, and she said, where where did that kid get that white hair? And my girlfriend said, we picked it out of the Sears catalog, you know. But I had to fight everybody, and we were talking about bullying. I had to fight everybody for years from staring at him, and even adults and their families and everybody staring at him when we'd be out to dinner. And I'd just go and say, you know, the ugliest people always stare at other people. And then that would end it.
Karen, that's wonderful. I wish I would have had you when I was doing my 10 snappy comments for other people. Because unfortunately, most of our kids diagnosed, some you can tell have a physical ailment, but our kids, it's a catch-22. For the most part, my son looks completely typical and normal on the outside. I almost used to say I hate to wish anything upon him, but sometimes as a mom, you just almost wish he was in a wheelchair so people could kind of understand. They look totally fine, so they're not so much staring at the kid anymore, they're staring at the parents. And what are you doing wrong, and what's your problem? And
Why
I
you
can't
can't
tell you,
control
every
it.
time I come out, I get at least 20 comments a day, so that's what puts us in our homes, you know, and makes us homebound because we just can't deal.
And is that because he's
anymore.
combative?
Yeah, aggression or just oddities.
Or making comments
He's
out
trying.
loud?
My son is learning conversation, so he's trying to be social and ask questions. But he may get, you know, he doesn't know boundaries, so he'll get right up in your face and get really excited, and people are very taken aback by that. And he may. The other day, he was watching a girl exercise at the gym, and he's like, look at that boy, he's exercising. And it was obviously a beautiful woman with long hair, and she was just so like, because here he is 7 and he's a big guy. Why did he call me a boy? What's wrong with you? You know, and, you know, or he has an autoimmune disease along with, that's a whole other thing. These kids have medical issues. And so he didn't, it was winter, he didn't have a coat on, and the woman just said, what is wrong with you? You don't have a coat on your son. And I'm like, I wanted a comment, you know, but you just don't.
Well, I do. You know, when I worked in psychiatry, you know, people used to say, I'm going home from the psych unit, and all my neighbors want to know what's wrong with me, and, you know, if I'm going to be okay or if I'm dangerous. And I'd say, just tell them you've been here and you've been checked out, have they?
Well, that's why that's the Autism Society of Illinois.
about educating.
I am adamant about getting these families out into the public and making sure that they know when they go out and they come out with us as a group that that we are there to protect them. And they are out to come out and have a good time. And that is just so important to me, because I remember when my children were first diagnosed, we didn't go anywhere. And when we did, you know, people were making comments and things like that. And if I could do that for every family in Illinois, I wish I could. And that's really very important to us.
And one thing they hosted last year was the first time event, which I know they tried for years, was the Great America Day.
Right.
And I was able to go there, and these families' smiles were unbelievable. Just to go out, to have something to do for their kids, and I can tell I remember helping one family. They were struggling, but I said, don't worry about it. We're going to take care of him and take care of you.
You go sit back and we'll take care of it. We had a
And-
quiet area for
Yeah.
them, and they were just so appreciative. And they were able to come and de-escalate. They had to pay for that we couldn't pay for everyone to go to Great America.
Right.
We got a rate.
But that's a rare
But it's a rare
occasion,
occasion that they
Yeah.
get to go someplace like that.
I know when I was a student nurse, we took all the patients out from the Chicago State Mental Hospital to the zoo. And so we had a lot of people staring at us, too, because patients were doing things.
Yeah.
They had been hospitalized for many years, and they
Right.
weren't socializing, you know.
No.
But so what keeps you home, though? Is it it's difficult to control them? Is it the fear, or is it the fact that you don't want people looking at you?
It's all, I think, a
Yeah.
little bit of everything. Fear of elopement for my son. I have 3 children, all under the age of 7.
If
So
he runs
I'm
away.
one person, and my son,
that's
you know,
rough.
wanders, and I have to have eyes on the back of my head, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. There's the comments. There's, you know, just
Staring.
the,
for sure.
everything.
And I think some of the families with the older kids that are in their 16, 17, 18, 19, I think they've just given up of trying to take them out and doing things out in the community, because these outreach programs that we're trying to put together at ASI to get the families out into the community, I'm seeing their younger families, the kids are just being diagnosed. There's a lot more understanding. Some of these parents that have been around for a long time to the diagnosis, they're just done. They're spent.
Yeah.
Well,
They're
is there anything for
exhausted.
the public to fear?
No.
No.
Okay. Well, you know,
Mom's got
that's
it
what
under
you got to get
control
across.
for the
Mom
most
got it
part.
right, yeah. We know what we're doing when we take our kids out. Trust.
Yeah.
I had my girlfriend out with us, and I was pregnant with my 3rd child, and I told her to go look at the purses, and just go. I'll take care of them. He punched me in the stomach. I took him down. We laid down on the ground in the middle of Carson's, and everybody's like, "Are you okay? Do you need help?" I'm like, "Keep walking, everybody. There's no show here." So there's nothing to fear about these kids. They're beautiful. They're loving.
Most of them are so brilliant, and they take in everything they know, and so that's what I struggle with too. So I've developed cards to educate as well, because I don't want to use the word autism so much around my 7-year-old who has an IQ of 168 but doesn't necessarily do appropriate things. He gets it. He knows. So I'll just hand him a nice little card with my foundation on it, which is www.thefarrellfoundation.org, and that is a foundation I created to help families directly, just like Autism Society
So
of
most of the
Illinois
time,
does.
any aggression that does occur is toward their own family,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay, yeah.
But
I think
It
sometimes it's, well, and I had been a paraprofessional for about almost a year, so I think it's just people that they're around all the time. I think
they're most comfortable.
most comfortable. I think as a paraprofessional also that they're trying to establish a trust issue. You know, they are used to mom and dad at home all the time, and yes, they could get aggressive or whatnot. But also at school now, and unfortunately in this world of paraprofessionals, they're in and out of these kids' lives. Sometimes they've had poor paraprofessionals, sometimes they've had great, but you're trying to establish that relationship.
Well, you know, I don't know if you recall or not, but when we had Dr. Walsh, the biochemist, on the show, and we were talking about hair analysis. By the way, if you're interested in hair analysis, you can go to our website at American TV Productions and get all the information on how to do it through us, through the laboratory. But a lot of people have toxins in their system, and the toxins can be aluminum, it could be mercury, it could be copper, which causes aggression. And even from drinking water through copper tubing, or you know, from people when they're pregnant, eating soy, all different kinds of things. And it takes over the neurotoxins in your body, and you can become aggressive just from that too. So a lot of times that might be the cause of some of this behavior.
Yes.
But the other important thing is that people psychologically often release everything that they're upset about at home or with their own family, because they don't feel like they can do it with strangers or at school or whatever, but when they come home, it's released.
And that's one of the biggest
Yeah.
issues that we have when parents call up and they're talking about special education. They're like, they're holding it all together great at school, but they get home and they're losing it.
That's where they release it, yeah.
But the school needs to be helping teach the child coping mechanisms so that he or she doesn't come home and lay it on the line with the parents, and you know, things are flying and people are getting kicked.
Yeah, but you know, think of yourself when you're upset all day somewhere at work or something. Where do you come home and release it?
You do.
Yeah.
But,
You know, it's the
but
same way.
these kids need to be taught these
they don't
behavioral
have the tools that we have
Right.
typically, and
to be able to cope.
I
They have no
see.
coping.
Yeah, so many kids at 11, 12 where they're doing great in school, but then the anxiety just gets the best of them, and then they can't control it in school either. So, and then they're like, well, what happened? I thought everything, you know, my child was near recovery and he was doing so great, but.
And I think sometimes too, you know, thankfully, I've met a couple parents that I've referred to Autism Society of Illinois. And for parents who don't know, when IEPs, they send people to go and help support you in an IEP, and I think it's an amazing thing that they do for free. So
Yes.
Autism Society of Illinois, autismillinois.org is where you can get that information too. But when I was working with some families, they weren't having the services.
No.
Or when some of these kids who have those paraprofessionals and they're in their, you know, they're with them for the right purpose to help them. But imagine being with someone all day, like just like this, trying to help you do things. I think they need a break too. So when I was teaching the kids, I gave them that break when they came to my exercise class, and I let them just lay down and relax and release some tension and not have someone in their face, because that's what they're used to sometimes.
What we do to kids, when we do to kids with all disabilities, with special education, is as parents, we ask them to perform.
Also, as
They
I
get
said, they have all
therapized. They're in therapy all the time.
expectations.
40 hours a week of therapy my son would go to. That's all they did. So they're always on show. So, you know, everybody's always, you do this, you do this, do this, do this, do this. And they don't ever get a break to ever sit down and relax and understand. They don't know how to do it. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So autism, the biggest autism conference is coming May 24th through the 29th. It's called Autism One, and that's going to be an all-encompassing convention for advocacy, biomedical, a lot of biomedical information. So all the resources that you hear out there are all in one huge, exciting conference. And the mantra this year is recovery on a budget. Well, I know I've put about $250,000 into my son because I didn't have these resources until recently. So it's just really going to be an exciting time. There's going to be all kinds of things for the parents, mixers, dad's night out,
Spa night.
spa night. So
And it's free.
free for the first time. That's
Yes.
why I wasn't able to go for 4 years because I was stuck in the house without funds.
And it's where now?
It is at the
The Westin.
Westin in Lombard. And
And I went to the very first one at Loyola 9 years ago. So this is really exciting for me because this conference helped me learn everything I've done to help my children. So this is
That's
if you're a new mom and dad, grandparents, everybody, come to this conference. You're gonna learn something. You're gonna walk away with something great.
How does it become free? Do you have sponsors?
yes, we're sponsored by many, many sponsors. Autism Recovery Center of America is providing also free childcare to help parents. It's all about now helping parents because we've been kind of on our own for the longest time. And Oxy Health is a big supporter, but there are several other sponsors that want to help the parents, help
And
their
what is the
children.
date again?
May 24th through the 29th, and it's a week-long event, although that can be a little overwhelming too. So if you could just kind of, my first year I went on Saturday and Sunday, and one of the tracks that I happened to go to, there's over 150 speakers, was a pandas track. I didn't know anything about it going in. I came out with all this information, and if it wasn't for them, my son probably would have never gotten diagnosed.
Where is the website or the blog that they can get information?
www.autism1.org. That's where registration is. So it's
Or you can go to our website,
Yes,
autismillinois.org,
and register there as well.
or you can click on a link to get registered.
Yes.
Now, there's something that, Mary Kay, that you had mentioned that I want Kristen to focus on too and tell me about. It was, you were talking about biomedical, and there may be some people watching that don't understand what that word means or what they can do, or some new parents. Like one of my friends is maybe having her baby right now, and she's asked me a lot of questions, but I want you to explain that to some of the parents that may be watching about what can they do to help their bodies and things that you guys discuss at Autism Society of Illinois too.
Yeah, my belief and many people's belief is there's an underlying medical condition going on. So some of the mainstream doctors are just saying it's a neuromental condition. It's really a neurobiological, neuroimmune. The gut, there's issues in the gut and dysfunction in the gut from external toxins, all
That's
kinds
in
of
this
different
book about
things.
carbohydrates and
Yeah.
sugar malabsorption.
Our
and
food,
things.
everything.
We just talked to a parent today.
That's causing our children's neurotransmitters to just
They want them
can't.
to avoid always contain dairy, butter, cheese, skim milk, whole milk, buttermilk, powdered milk,
Yeah.
evaporated milk, condensed milk, goat's
We
milk.
just
sheep's milk.
talked to a parent today. She called.
She wanted help. Step one, we said take out the dairy. So
Yeah.
then, there's the gluten-free, casein-free diet. There are Defeat Autism Now. There are doctors that will get you on this path. They're called Defeat Autism Now doctors, and other holistic professionals as well. It's been quite a spiritual journey.
Well, I'm sure Dr. Tony Kufis, who's a naturopath and an iridologist and
Yes.
reflexologist in Glendale
Absolutely.
Heights, can help you too.
We have, I always tell people I have a team of about 20 professionals working on my child because it's just,
And I think what you were saying about the gluten and the casein free, that's one of the first things I tell parents, because as parents, we think that, well, milk is good, and that's the casein, and that's the casein. Then gluten is wheat, so wheat is better than white bread.
Well, it's
It's the protein.
Yeah, but you
protein
got to
to
get
bind.
rice bread then, and rice
Right.
milk, and coconut milk, and things like
But
that.
I think what happens when we talk about educating is that
yes. The parent is always like, well, that's all my child will eat. That's what I hear all the
Right.
time. And it's
You
like,
know
well,
what?
that's
The
because
child
they're
will eat
addicted
what you
to that.
buy. They have no access to anything
Right.
else.
Yeah.
I always have to laugh about people saying that. My
Yeah.
child will only eat this. Well, who bought it? The child didn't buy it, right?
That's the
But-
first.
And in the media, we see it as wheat's good, dairy's good, and that's healthy. But obviously, as
I
we're
have to
seeing,
say, I've been seeing a lot more out there about the gluten-free.
Oh, now
Oh,
there's
yeah.
a lot.
More
yeah.
of
There are.
Because I got tested
But then
not too long ago, and I
yeah.
never had a problem, and now I do.
But then
you
on
know.
the flip side, we still have our conventional pediatricians who are saying that our kids are malnourished on that. So, you know, we have
Well,
to
you
really.
know, I have to say that, you know, I had a lot of bright medical students that I went to school with and everything, but they didn't teach us a lot of these things, and we took classes right with them. And it's only been in past years that a lot of these things have been brought to the forefront. So sometimes they don't study because they're busy, and
Right.
you know, you can't just go by what one says.
Absolutely.
It's just, you know, I want to show a
Get a
couple of
second
things here.
opinion.
I want to show you this book again, The Cutting Edge Therapies for Autism, because it looks really, really interesting. It has a lot in here about the diet and all different kinds of things, and chiropractic and naturopathic and everything else. Also, there's a book, Healthcare You Can Live With, Discover Wholeness in the Body and Spirit. This is by a physician who worked for 20 years in Memphis with a lot of poor people, and he talks about the healthcare program. Then we also have the Le Personal Coach, which is a French trainer's simple secrets to getting fit and slim without a gym. But Dave will help you do it with a gym, but not if you're not autistic anymore, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to show you this, Dave, and I don't have it with me, but this is the cutest thing. How would you describe your son's hygiene? Are you having a tough time getting your son to shower? Does he take minute showers? Does he waste your shampoo? Wouldn't it be nice if he had his own hygiene? They have now come up with this thing. It's a little ball. I'm going to show it on a future show. Looks like a baseball or something.
Yeah.
And you can give it to him, and then it's antioxidant, antibacterial, anti-inflammatory remedy that will soothe the most sensitive skin. And it's called Stinky Boys, B-O-Y-Z,
love it.
Stinky Boys. And they're helping Haiti too, but you can get info at stinky-boys, B-O-Y-Z.com. And the last thing I want to say is they asked me to mention Drury Lane has a lot of interesting things coming up. And Drury Lane is really good in Oak Brook because you don't have to pay for parking or anything. But they have AIDA coming up. They have Broadway Bound coming up from June 9th to July 31st. They have a Sydenham musical, Sweeney Todd, coming up August 17th through October 9th. And The Sound of Music from October 20th through December 23rd. And Gypsy after that until March. So that's the following March, not this March.
And we only have a couple minutes left, so I want to make sure that you guys get to mention first. Mary Kay, you brought this wonderful picture behind us, so
I would have
take a
Kirsten
minute.
talk about it because
Okay.
I actually put her in charge of this new program that we're.
Henry is an artist who is a young adult on the spectrum. And he does this beautiful art, and he commissions it, and he donates the majority of the proceeds to Autism Society of Illinois. And
What's his name?
His
Henry?
name is Henry Zarn, and he's just a fantastic artist. I mean, we've sold probably over 50 paintings or drawings.
And how do they
for
find
him. He has a Facebook page, Henry's Artwork Through the Eyes of Autism, and you can go on there and view the gallery of work, and he will sign, and he's at all of our conferences if you'd like to meet him.
He'll be at Autism 1, and we'll
Yes.
be having all of his artwork there, and then you'll be able to purchase it through our website.
Okay. And that's autismillinois.org.
You know, another thing I want to mention is this Aura Moist dry mouth patches. For a lot of patients who have this dry mouth problem, it's actually something that you can put right in the roof of your mouth. And hair analysis. If you're interested in finding out why you have certain symptoms, it's important to do a hair analysis. You can find out about the toxins and your vitamin deficits. And I wanted to show this because I'm always looking for things with no carbohydrates. This is herbal water. This is clove and cinnamon, and this is really good, and they're going to be sending us more flavors to try. Nice. But Republic of Tea also has a strawberry chocolate, caffeine-free, rich blend, and it really doesn't have any sugar or anything. It's tea, and it's really interesting, red velvet chocolate when you really have a taste for chocolate.
Republic of Tea is fantastic.
I love Republic of Tea. Lysine cold sore treatment. They sometimes send us things just so you can know about them. This Glytone is a mild gel wash that takes off some of the dead skin cells. And this is a actually Fioravante, and it makes your hair shine. And this is French, so I hope I'm pronouncing this right, by Ferderer Rene of Paris. Anyway, I want to thank you, Dave, and I'd like to thank you, and I hope that if you're looking for more autism information, you can go to Dave's website at ecautism.com.
And,
Okay,
and
go ahead.
that's all available, and it'll link you to autismillinois.org. Again, thank you, Mary
Thank you.
Kay and
Yes,
Kirsten,
just
for
keep
coming.
your hope. Recovery is possible. It can be done.
And we are
Okay.
here for you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.